Assalamu alaikum. This is Huma Islam, your O levels Islamiyat teacher. Today's topic is from the Pillars of Islam, which is from P2 chapter 4. And I would like to say thank you to Hasnan Shakil, who has prepared the presentation for me and for me to present for you all. And he's such a gem of a soul that he's also added my name to the presentation, whereas I have not done anything in preparing the presentation. I'm only giving you the vocals. So thank you, Sir Hasnan, once again. Okay, so it's a part of the pillars of Islam. 1, 2, 3, 4. We can't actually, some people say this is the first pillar, second, third pillar. It's not actually defined in the Sunnah in these different terms of first, second, and third. So we can just say it's one of the pillars of Islam. Okay, so Sir has added this beautiful poster in which it accumulates every single thing. I think even if you just print out this poster that Sir has here and stick it to your wall, you can learn Zakat, and answer the questions perfectly. So Zakat, almsgiving. Usually you get a question, outline the practice of almsgiving, Zakat in Islam. Now, what is Zakat? The word Zakat is derived from zakah, which means to increase or to bless. Another meaning of the word is used in the Quran, carries the sense of purification. So if we take the meaning of increasing, although you're giving zakat, it does increase your blessings, it increases your wealth, and it is a way that purifies your wealth too. The amount of payment and distribution of zakat was defined at Medina in the second year of Hijrah. So when was it made farz, zakat? I mean, people were giving almsgiving charity before Medina as well, but it was not farz, it was voluntarily performed. But zakat was made farz in the second year of Hijrah. The payment is compulsory on every adult, free Muslim who owns property to the extent of the prescribed rate. What is the prescribed rate? Nisab. Nisab means that if you have some assets and the assets reach to a specific rate, suppose I have gold, it's an asset. And if it reaches to a specific, like usually in Pakistan, they do it with the tola system, like 7.5 dollars. If you've got that much gold, and if you've got that much gold, then you would have to give 2.5% on those $7 that you've got, right? Suppose you have a specific, some land, and if you have multiple plots or multiple, acres of land, then of course, it's naturally exceeding the rate of nisab. So suppose you've got plots worth of or land worth of 50 crore, right, or 50 lakh. So you would, because it's way crossing over the nisab, so you will give 2.5 of what you have, your assets basically. The payment is compulsory on every adult free Muslim who owns property to the extent of the prescribed rate called nisab, provided such property has remained in his ownership and possession uninterruptedly for a full 1 year. In other words, I've had my gold for a whole year, and because I've had it for a full year, then I have to give zakat on it. But suppose I just had it for only 6 months and I sold it all away, then there would be no zakat. It has to be in my possession for at least 1 full year. So if I go to this poster that Sir has pasted here, it has literally every single thing that you need to understand zakat. And you can go through it by extending the screen, expanding the screen. Okay, zakat is payable on cash, gold, and silver jewelry. Crops, silver and gold and silver jewelry. Crops mean any vegetation that you are the produce of the land, basically. Animals, minerals, agricultural lands, and all kinds of commercial goods. On cash, gold, and silver, zakat is paid at a rate of 2.5 once it reaches the nisab. On produce of mines, owners of mines have to pay 1/5 of the produce of the mines. On the produce of agricultural land is called ashar. Ashar is from 1/10. It means 10. Ashar means 10, so you're given 1/10 of the land. is to be found in the Holy Quran. It is levied at the 1/10 of the agricultural produce of the lands, benefiting by rain or some natural spring. If they are naturally irrigated, then it's 1/10. And if um, they are artificially irrigated, like from a tube well that you need electricity to move, or you have to water it yourself, with a boring or something like that, then it is levied 1/20th of the produce of artificially irrigated water. For every 40 sheep of goats, one goat is given for zakat. On 30 to 40 cattle, one calf of 1 year, and in other words, a 1-year-old calf will be given as zakat. And on every 40 cattle, a 2-year-old calf will be given. On every 5 camels, one goat or sheep will be given. Sadaqatul Fitr is an obligatory charity given on the completion of the month of Ramadan. It's for the expiation of any mistake that you made during Ramadan, so it's called a Sadaqatul Fitr. If you can see, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ, so that you all are, you find blessings. You are all you find mercy from Allah. By paying zakat, Allah will be merciful towards you all. Zakat versus sadaqah. You can get this more information from www.differencebetween.com. Okay, definition. Zakat is an obligatory form of almsgiving encouraged upon every Muslim for the sake of Allah. Sadaqah is an act of voluntary charity towards others. In other words, zakat is obligatory, sadaqah, you give it voluntary. Type, obligatory, sadaqah, voluntary. A zakat, type of receiver, only poor or helpless people, and only to Muslims, plus only to Muslims. Sadaqah to any living being. Time and minimum amount given. It's given in the Quran, and the time or minimum amount is not given for sadaqah. And for zakat, types of donations: money in cash, gold or silver or property. And sadaqah not required to be physical or monetary. You don't have to sadaqah. Remember, smiling is also sadaqah, so it doesn't have to be monetary or any physical form of sadaqah. Holy Quran tells us the zakat money is to be distributed. It says, this is in verse number 60 of Surah Tawbah: alms are for the poor and the needy, the fuqara and maskeen, and those employed to administer the funds were amilina, and those who work on it, for those whose hearts have been recently reconciled to the truth. In other words, mu'allaf al-qulub, the ones to bring their hearts closer to Islam. You can pay zakat to them also. For those in bondage and in debt, and those who are under debt, you can pay zakat for them. And then you can also and for the wayfarer, was the one who was the traveler. So the poor and the needy. Who are the poor and the needy? The fuqara and maskeen. Faqr means that person who is so poor that he can't even move. I mean, suppose a disabled person has no form of income. They belong to the fuqara. In this category are those people who may have some funds but not enough to meet the threshold for nisab. Now, the destitute are these people who have no funds and are living on the very basic necessities of life. Those are the fuqara, basically. And the maskeen are those who do earn, but they don't earn enough to meet to make ends meet. And then zakat will be paid to zakat collectors, the people who work, amilin, the people who were working on zakat, collecting and distributing. Their wages will be paid from zakat also. Muslim converts. In this category are the new converts of Islam who are generally poor and are given zakat to. Actually, it's not necessary that they are very poor, but sometimes, because you're usually well off, but because your family members have left you, suppose you belong to a Christian family, because you've converted, your parents, your brothers and sisters, they're not helping you anymore, you're all on your own. It's very difficult to make ends meet, so then you can pay to them. Why mu'allaf al-qulub? To make them inclined towards Islam even more, just because of your financially helping them. Okay, prisoners of war or slaves, those people, the ones that are bonded, in other words, your slaves that have come to you in war, prisoners of war. Ma malakat imanukum, in other words, if you can spend on them also, so that they may be able to use the zakat funds to buy their freedom. People in debt, it's very good. In Pakistan, there are many people who are suffering from debt, so it's good if you can pay off their debt for them to meet their needs, but cannot pay them back, are eligible for zakat. Travelers, Muslims in the middle of their journey are out of funds, are eligible for zakat donations. They may be well off at home, but suppose they've been robbed and they don't have enough money, you can pay your zakat to them also. Others, zakat funds can also be spent on people and organizations that are engaged in the service to Islam. So zakat, we have 8 recipients in the group for who can take the zakat. The poor are the faqir, the fuqara, then the needy, the miskeen, people who have property and income to meet their daily needs, but it's not sufficient enough. Fi sabilillah, those people who are working for Islam, in other words, working for Allah in jihad. Muallaf al-qulub means to incite, to bring them closer to Islam. Ibn Sabil, the traveler. Gharim, the ones who are prisoners, whose necks are, they are captured. Amal zakat, the people who work on zakat. And riqab, to free a slave. You can pay zakat to free a slave. Now that is never, but that can also be used for, bail, bailing an innocent person from prison because he's been captured because of some, he's been imprisoned because of some sort of false allegation. But don't help a person who is a criminal with your zakat, please, for God's sake. Okay, zakat cannot be paid to non-Muslims because remember, zakat will be taken from Muslims and given to Muslims. So you cannot be paid to non-Muslims. And now, to one's husband or wife, parents. Now, it's not to be paid to the husband, but the wife can pay zakat to her husband. If he's poor, she can give her zakat to him. You can't give it to your parents or grandparents. You can't give it to your children or grandchildren. Zakat can't be paid to the Sayyid, the descendants of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and those who meet the threshold of nisab. In other words, if they are well off, you can't pay zakat to them. You can't give it to workers or servants that are on you as their wage. You can't give zakat as wages to them. Zakat funds also cannot be used for burial expenses or to pay off the debt of the deceased, as it is imperative according to Sharia that the recipient of zakat should be made owner of it. In other words, remember, the debt of a deceased person will be paid from his inheritance. First, and plus another reason why you can't pay it, because when you're giving zakat, somebody has to take it. So how are you going to be giving it to the person who's buried? Okay, now it is said that the best people that you should give your zakat to is your brothers and sisters if they are not well off, and then your uncles and aunts if they are not well off. Look into your relatives to give your zakat, then into the neighborhood to give your zakat, and then because usually you'll find people sending their zakat to different countries, but then their next door neighbor can't even afford a meal, so it doesn't work. That will create ill feelings towards the people who are sending their zakat elsewhere. So first, in your family, your immediate family, look around. Not your mother and father, not your children, but it can be given to the brothers and sisters. Okay, direct descendants and descendants, you're not going to be giving zakat to them. Those with sufficient wealth, zakat will not be given to them. Non-Muslims will not take zakat, and those engaged in sinful activities, this is debatable because the Muslim scholars say that those people who are indulged in sin will not be given zakat. Okay, importance of zakat. There's this question: how do you think observing the pillar of giving alms benefits the giver? This is a 4-mark question. It's based on your thinking and understanding. And then the 8-part question is: almsgiving is an act of worship which benefits the community of Muslims. Write in detail about its benefits to the giver, the receiver, and to the society as a whole. Zakat is the fourth pillar of Islam, and it was made obligatory on the rich Muslims in the second year of Hijrah. The zakat is mentioned 32 times in the Quran. It has the following benefits for the giver, the receiver, and the society as a whole. Giver, zakat purifies the heart. The bond with God earn God's mercy. Now, remember, how does it purify the heart? When the love of wealth is inculcated in everybody's heart. When you take out wealth and you just give it away just for the sake of Allah, it purifies your heart from that love for the wealth. And you're doing it totally for Allah, so you feel close to Allah because you've been obedient. You've given a chunk of what you love to for Allah, so you feel Allah's mercy also. You receive blessings as by this act their wealth is multiplied. And the people who do give zakat, Allah blesses them with even more money. Now, benefits of zakat. Zakat cleanses a Muslim soul, enabling him to get rid of greed, stinginess, I can't read this, avarice, I can't read it, and the pursuit of worldly pleasures. When the rich pay out their share of zakat, the hearts of the poor and the needy are purged, or grudge, envy, and hatred towards the rich who are so kind to them. In other words, the feelings that they were feeling are taken away. Zakat nurtures kindly action and as generosity. So I don't know why I can't read this. Generosity and helping others in the heart of Muslims. People don't give their zakat. That's the reason why we see so much poverty. The parable of those who spend. This is a verse from Surah Al-Baqarah. It's a very important verse. The parable of those who spend their substance in the way of Allah is that of a grain of corn. It grows 7 ears, and each ear has 100 grains. So, like, one grain is put into the earth, and then that it grows, and 7 shoots come out, for example. And on those 7 ears or 7 shoots, each ear has like 100 grains. So, do you see how 700? Your zakat money has multiplied. The reward multiplies. Zakat expiates the sins of a person. The person who is paying zakat, his sins are also removed because of his paying of zakat. It provides open-handedness, generosity, and sympathy in the Muslim. Allah says, "Take the charities zakat from their wealth in order to purify and cleanse them by way of it." Allah says, "Take the charity from their wealth in order to purify and cleanse them by the way of it." In other words, by giving zakat, they will be purified and cleansed. In other words, their hearts and their mal will be purified. On one hand, it indicates a person's sincerity of faith, while on the other hand, it shows his commitment to sacrifice something which he covets, material wealth, in other words, which he loves so much, in the way of Allah. It is abiding by one of the pillars of Islam upon which rests an individual's prosperity in this worldly life and the hereafter. The receiver, how does the receiver benefit? It is not only a blessing for a receiver, but helps them meet their needs. And of course, if they can, if by getting zakat 2 or 3 months they can eat a decent meal, then of course they're receiving a lot of benefit. It fosters goodwill and brotherhood in the hearts of the poor and promotes equality. What happens is that their hearts, the grudges that they are feeling, they don't feel it no more. And, if they were jealous even, and that will also be removed because now they've got enough and they have enough, to have a decent meal. Zakat is a source of power for the needy. In addition to providing the financial stricken poor and desperately needed capital, zakat also injects a theme in them, a dynamic energy. instilling in them the confidence to provide for their own. Like sometimes when you're paying zakat, and sometimes, when you're giving zakat, and you're giving a huge number, they can start a small business, they can buy a small motorcycle and, start iDrives or something like that. Or they can, buy a rickshaw if they are paying like 3 lakh, 4 lakhs to a single person, and they can buy a rickshaw in which they can then earn by the rickshaw. Then that would, it benefits them to, so that they can earn. So, they can set up small businesses. Social benefit. People come closer together like a single family, in which those who have the means show compassion to those who cannot fulfill their needs. Now remember, when you come when the time comes to zakat giving, and you interact with the poor people, in other words, the rich people interact with the poor people, or the self-sufficient people interact with the poor people, they realize that how much, turmoil these people are in, and how much difficult it is for them to, make ends meet. And there are so many multiple families, people can't even afford medication. So it brings you closer and empathetic towards those people who cannot afford even medication and essential medicine. Remove the grudges and ill feelings found in the hearts of the poor and the destitute. It prevents extreme financial disparity and associated social evils and crimes, because naturally, if you're given zakat, you don't have to steal. The people who steal, they don't have to steal, and they don't have to be corrupt. If they're working somewhere and they keep on asking for money, if they were given zakat on the right time, then they won't have to do things like that. Okay, it leads to an equal distribution of wealth in the society, eradicates begging. Zakat also stimulates investment and discourages hoarding in the community. Yes, hoarding can be discouraged by paying off zakat. If people don't invest their wealth, it will gradually be consumed by zakat. Therefore, it is an effective way of keeping wealth in circulation. Prophet, peace be upon him, said, if any one of you is a guardian of an orphan who owns property, he must trade with or invest it and not leave it till sadaqah consumes it. This is the hadith from Tirmidhi. So in other words, if you have wealth, don't just leave it be, because you're just going to be paying zakat over it, and then you're going to be paying zakat over it until it reaches to the nisab, and then there will be no zakat that you have to pay on it. So invest it so that you can gain surplus money and then pay zakat on it. And thank you, and may Allah bless you all. Ameen. And thank you, Hassan, once again for sharing his presentation.